What's going on, y'all? Digital DJ Tips just reported on their Instagram FCC filings for a new Pioneer all-in-one controller. So if you aren't aware, what FCC filings are is before you can get a device approved in the US, if it has any kind of like broadcast signals like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, you need to file it with the FCC or the US government so it can get approved. And a lot of times, this is how we find out leaks of new things coming. So, a new, which looks like a successor to the XDJ XZ, the all in one Pioneer DJ controller that's been on the market that pretty much mimics the CDJ, DJM setup, club setup. The one with the small screen in the middle, pretty much the screen from the CDJ 2000s. So it looks like we're finally getting an update to that device. It's been quite a few years since the XZ came out. We're talking about before the CDJ 3000. So a lot has changed for the Pioneer record box CDJ ecosystem, right? We've gotten a whole new way of working with the CDJ 3000s, a way better touchscreen, a way better search interface, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen some of these updates roll out to the other all-in-one XDJ devices like the, what is it? The R something or other, the two-deck one, which has the bigger screen somewhere closer to the CDJ 3000s, but even that had its issues. But what I wanted to discuss in this video is, do we really need another all-in-one controller from Pioneer? I think it's been quite a long time since we've seen an XDJ, media player, meaning a media player that's not the club standard, top of the line, cost $3,000 just for one. Back in the day, we would see a whole line of different CDJs that went from like $1,000 or maybe even less for the CDJ 750. I don't remember, all the way up to the 2000 Nexus 2, which was the top of the line at the time. And then as Pioneer started putting out these all-in-one controllers, we saw less and less of these devices, and they basically pretty much stopped making standalone media players and just started making these all-in-one controllers with the two jog wheels, the two decks, and then a mixer section in the middle, either 2 channels or 4 channels. But I think it's about time that Pioneer put out a more budget-friendly, mid-tier media player. I think that's kind of needed in this space, right? Especially with how expensive the CDJ 3000s are. Now I think there's a lot of smaller clubs and bars that would love to get the 3000s, but that price tag just makes it kind of unattainable. Where I think if you had a media player that was, say, 1,700 to 2,000, makes it a lot more digestible than what you get with the CDJ 3000, which is quite a bit much more cash for them. Now, I play on 3000s every week on sticks, and I do really enjoy them. And I've had plenty of friends buy them for their home setups. But I know also a lot of other DJs that haven't bought them because of the price. And once you're used to playing on 3000s, it kind of doesn't make sense to buy a older used 2000 Nexus 2 because just the workflow is so much different. I mean, everything from the speed of loading up a song to the search functionality to track preview. And to me, the biggest one has to be the fact that there's that 1,000 song playlist limit, which was removed with the 3000s, which, coming from Serato and I work in big crates or big playlists, that helped out a lot because it made me not have to sparse down my playlists and cut them into multiple playlists, right? Which I had to do with 2000s, which I still play on 2000 sometimes, and I have those playlists on my stick just in case, but it's not as easy or not as nice as just playing out of a bigger playlist, right? I get why Pioneer does the all-in-one thing, because for $2,000 to $3,000 you get the whole thing, right? You get the mixer, you get the two decks all in one. But I mean, what about the people that had the XZ that now down the line they've bought a separate mixer and they just want media players? They don't need a full replacement for an all-in-one. There's so many cases of people that want to upgrade and want to upgrade to separate decks, or say you want to play on 4 decks. That's kind of not possible on a lot of that gear, right? Just because of the limitations of the all-in-one. And then you have to jump all the way up to the club standard at the moment. Now, I'm glad to see an update to the XZ just because it was such a popular controller and it did a lot, but now with the new technology and the new generation of Pioneer gear, it definitely feels older. It feels like it's lagging behind technology-wise. I think if after this all-in-one device, I would really love to see a cheaper media player. Even if it costs, like I said, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 for one, I think it would be a great option for a lot of people, and I think that Pioneer would sell a ton of them. I mean, maybe make the screen a little bit smaller, maybe make it flat like the older CDJ 900s or something like that. Take a few of the options out, just like they used to do on their cheaper media players, because a lot of the differences now are in the software of the CDJ 3000. I think you can put that into a media player and still cut corners on a lot of the other things and still make it a really functional piece of gear and something that a lot of people would pick up. I know I'd be a lot more inclined to pick up a pair of those for the house, rather than having to shell out for CDJ 3000s. But also too, the 3000s are past the normal CDJ kind of timeline, right? Where pretty much every 4 years since the CDJ 2000 came out, we got a new CDJ. It's already been over 4 years for the 3000, so that's probably due for a refresh. So maybe they drop them at the same time, a 3000 Mark II and maybe like a CDJ 2500 or something like that. I think that could be a great option. I could see Pioneer doing something like that, dropping those at the same time, and that way you could give somewhat of the older CDJ 3000 feature and layout to the new cheaper one, and then add all the extra upgrades that we'll probably see in the new CDJ in that newer Mark II model. And I think with the FCC filing that I discussed earlier, it includes Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so that's probably something that we're going to see in the next CDJ. We've already seen it in the Omnis Duo, and it only makes sense to add that into the latest and greatest CDJ. So maybe this new cheaper one doesn't have those wireless features. That could be a way of cutting costs. Who knows? All I know is that I really want a cheaper Pioneer media player option. I think there's so many people out there, so many DJs in the world, so many club owners, bar owners that would love to have that option again, because I know there's even places, huge venues here in Vegas, that still have the older, cheaper CDJs that aren't the 3000s or aren't the 2000 Nexus 2s. And that's still kind of crazy to me. And I think they'd be more inclined to update if they didn't have to pay for 2 CDJ 3000s. Well, that's just my thoughts. Love to hear what you guys have to say about this. I'll be sure to read all the comments down below, and I'll be sure to reply to as many as possible. And of course, if you're interested in watching more DJ related content, please be sure to click on one of the videos right here, and catch you guys in the next one.